Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. It's Kim and Tia, and we do hope that you have been enjoying our episodes up to this point. We are actually doing our 9th episode today. Today, we're going to talk about the victim mask. And in previous episodes, we've been taking one mask and taking a deeper dive. So today, we're going to take a deeper dive into the victim mask. And as always, we begin the episode with a quote. So today's quote is, "If you betray yourself, you are no different from the people who hurt you." What's the difference between those people who hurt you and what you are doing to yourself? Carolyn Miss.
Ouch. That's one of those that it just cuts right to it. It's,
It does.
we complain about what others are doing to us, but in reality, we're doing it to ourselves. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. And really, I think my experience, working with people and on my own journey, particularly around the victim mask, I was not willing to see that I was playing the victim. It was, I think mentioned that maybe briefly in a previous episode, maybe not, may have been a private conversation with you and I, but it was one of the toughest things for me to honestly own, because I'm not a victim. I'm strong. No one's hurting me. I don't feel that way. I just wasn't willing to go into that and then recognizing how I was playing victim. And in reality, I was doing it to myself more often than others doing it to me. And that is the work, right? It's never on the outside, it's on the inside. So yeah, for me, seeing myself as a victim was a hard pill to swallow, because it countered and raised up and really made me see all my masks. Because I could put that one and keep it locked on, glued on, concreted, cemented on, and not take it off because it was too painful. It's a tough one for me. How about you?
I would agree. It is difficult for me. It's not one of my hardest masks. I somewhat enjoy taking personal responsibility. I have more problem with the person who can't own and take responsibility for his or her actions. I'm super good at taking ownership. However,
I was going to say,
the shadow side
exactly
to that is that I will often beat myself up too much.
Yeah.
And own too much and really put myself down too much. Yeah. But here's where sometimes it does play out. And this is just a simple example. Mm-hmm. And my husband pointed out that I do this often.
So I can see it in our.
Yes, you can always see it. Exactly. You can always see the pattern in someone else. Mm-hmm. But after he pointed it out, I really, again, going back to, I do like to take personal responsibility. So I really sat with what he said and realized, you know what, that is a pattern for me. Mm-hmm. So here's how it played out. So yesterday I had a pest inspector come to spray for bees and for carpenter ants. And he did say that there's no warranty if you do a one-time, right? And he said, we can't really eliminate all bees per se. So I said, okay, fine. I paid the money. And this morning I wake up, and even yesterday, it felt like there were no less bees. I'm like, there are just as many bees. Like, I know he said that he couldn't eliminate them totally, but shouldn't there be like a reduction? And same thing with any kind of contractor. When I've had the house painted, or I will complain. So a key signature behavior of a person who is in victim mode is the minute you start to complain.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's, well, he didn't this, or he did that, she this, she that. It's always the other person.
Yep.
So I would complain, like, if the painter made a mess or did this or that, or this one did a poor job. But you know what? Did I ever think to pick up the phone and call up and say something? like I'll sit there and complain about it, but I won't do anything about it.
All that energy into the complaining.
All that energy into complaining instead of just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I know you said there's no guarantee on the bees. I just happen to notice that there's no less than there were before you sprayed. What do you think? Can you come back? Can you check out anything? But the reason that I won't do that is because of another mess.
I was just going to say, that's where my brain was going. Let's hear if it's what I think.
Yes. So I, at all costs, will avoid conflict and confrontation.
There's the people pleaser again, right?
Yes. So I don't want to get anyone upset. I don't want to speak, and I don't want to speak up and assert myself. Right. So that's the playing it small, because if I speak up and I call up and say and not complain, but assert myself and say, hey, you didn't do what you said you were going to do or whatever, then I may come off as being a bitch. So I have to play, and we talked about this in an earlier episode of playing the good girl role.
Right.
Wow, how many layers are compacted into that little thing about bees and carpenter ants? There's so much.
Exactly. Well, and I love that you shared like an experience you had that literally just happened, because that really solidifies to everyone. We've been doing this work for a long time.
Oh my goodness.
We can never fully have it go away. That little mask will pop right back on. And then we get to choose, are we going to notice it? Are we going to go within? Are we going to do the work and peel it back off again? So I love that you used a current experience. So now I'm curious, did you call or are you planning to call?
So what I'm planning on doing is, because I was talking to my husband about it, and he said that, just give it time, give it a little time. So I'm going to give it maybe a full 24 hours and see if there are fewer bees. But let me be honest. Let me check in with this. I don't know. I can feel in my gut that angst of, I don't know if I'm going to call.
Scary.
To be honest, it is. It's scary because he was clear with me. He said there is no warranty on it. Okay, I'll give it 24 hours and I'm being put to the challenge. I'm going to promise all of you I'm going to call.
All right.
And just assert myself.
All right.
I'm going to call.
So
if later this afternoon I still see as many bees, I'm going to just give a call.
So we'll expect an update in a couple episodes.
Exactly.
I'm going to write that down. I'm going to take a little note to check in with you the next time.
So here's the thing. Here's the other thing that I've learned by doing this work. It's not about the outcome, right? They still may say, right? Yes. It's not about the outcome. They still may say, I'm sorry. We explained to you there is no warranty. We can't guarantee because you paid a one-time. You didn't do the monthly. So I made a choice to pay the one-time and not do the monthly. Because if I did the monthly, they'd come back as many times as I wanted. So I made a choice. So I have to live by the choices that I made. But even still, me calling is not about getting the result or the outcome. Me calling is about me using my voice.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's not about fixing. And you're noticing that because that could have been a pattern.
Yes.
But you stopped and you checked in and noticed this isn't about necessarily getting what I want. It's just about using my voice and asking, and they may say, hey, we can switch you to a monthly. We'll just, and you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I have no idea.
So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see how it is. I mean, for me, my victim mask showed up. It's not as much. It's definitely one that I have put a lot of time and effort into. And I wouldn't say, I think for me, it was hard just because I didn't like seeing victimhood in other people because it was like, take responsibility, because I felt I took responsibility, and obviously I didn't take it all the time when my back was up against the wall and I was caught off guard. I went into the typical teenage defense mode or the toddler. I didn't have my hand in the cookie jar, So I own that fully. I did take personal responsibility in times when my brain was online and I could think. But it was because when I saw other people being a victim and not making change, really was what irritated me.
Yeah.
And so when I started to do the work and realized, wait a minute, where am I complaining and not taking action? You know, I'm complaining about this friendship, and I've tried enough, and then I stop, and then it's all their fault. You know, and that's not how it works. You know, there can come a time where you can consciously say, I have done this, and that person is not, we're not meeting, we're not on the same vibration, we're no longer a match for a friend. But that's not what I did. It was, they're not calling me back enough, I'm doing all the work, and how dare they, and you know. So I would create this massive story. For all I know, something was going on. And I mean, I'm guilty now if someone calls me, and if it gets too far down my feed, it's like a week later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I got your email, I'm just getting back to you now. We don't know what's going on in the other's lives, but because it was hurting me, I was blaming the other and looking at all the things I was doing. I was doing this and I was doing that, and they're just not doing anything.
Did you ever have an honest conversation could you have had an honest conversation with one of those people and say, hey, look, this is how I'm feeling? And
I tried to, you know, and this was, I don't know how old I was at the time, late 20s, maybe early 30s. I can't recall exactly when it was. Probably in my 20s. It had to be in my 20s. And so I did the sneaky, obnoxious, I'm going to keep track of how many times I contacted you. And I literally had a notepad with it. I mean, and I look back in it, and that's so terrible. You know, not terrible in like black, white, but just like that was very victim-y.
Yeah.
And so when I finally hit the breaking point and I confronted her. I did not invite a conversation. I did not ask to see it from her side. I basically went in and like, you don't care about me. Look at how many times I've contacted you and you haven't called me once. So it was pretty damaging. It wasn't fair. It's something I wish I could do differently, but I also have learned from it over time. And it definitely didn't help the relationship at all. And I feel.
Was that a wound for you?
That
She was triggering by not calling you?
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole abandonment wound that, you know, it was, again, not knowing it at the time, but that's what it was about. It was like, you don't see me. I'm not important.
Right.
You're going to leave. So now I'm going to confront you. So I'm going to push the button. And I was not a confronter at that age at all. It was scary, but I also hit the limit, you know, so then it's not authentic because I'm not in a mindful choice. I mean, I chose to confront, but I didn't choose to have that conversation to create potential conflict from a place of understanding and collaboration. It was a point of, I'm going to prove to you that I'm putting more into this relationship than you are. And obviously my friendship isn't important to you because you're not doing enough. So it was I'm going to shame and blame you and I'm going to force you to admit when in reality that's not helpful. You
were so angry at that point. You wanted, you kept it in, and then got to the point where it just spilled out.
I had to prove I was the victim.
You were
not knowing that at the time because I wasn't a victim ever at that age in my brain. But looking back, it was, I need to prove that I'm a victim. That you're making me a victim. You're harming me. You're hurting me.
Do you think that there are
listening out there? I really apologize for that. Thank you for that growth experience way back when. I'm very sorry I behaved the way I did, but you know, it's part of the journey and we make mistakes.
So I think when we're complaining or we're feeling resentful, feeling hurt, it's an opportunity or an invitation to go inward and look at our patterns and see where we're being triggered. Because it often is not what's happening on the outside. It's something on the inside.
Right. It's never on the outside.
It's never on the outside. It's always on the inside.
An experience can happen on the outside, but the wound is not there. It's poking at that inner wound, for me, it was abandonment. And in that
Right.
moment. Of course, I had no idea any of that then. I hadn't started my journey. I still was not willing to go into those emotions or admit, I just had to be strong.
Yeah. And I think for me, a lot, if I look back on my life, a lot of where I felt like a victim was when I couldn't change people and I couldn't change situations, right?
Right, of course.
And so I couldn't change people, places, and things. And so that I felt powerless, very powerless, because I had no control, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And when I didn't feel like I had control, that often made me feel like a victim. That put me in victimhood because I just could remember all the time just saying, if only this happened, if only that, right? So I would play that game all the time, especially I would say to myself for so many years, if only I would lose 20 pounds, then I would be happy. If only this person would behave this way, then I would be happy. If only this happened, if only the sky was orange and not blue, then I would be happy, right? So I wasn't really, I didn't learn the skill of how to accept reality, accept the as is, and just know how to flow with what was showing up in the moment. I was always wanting to escape it, run from it.
Yep.
And so that mentality, that way of thinking kept me perpetually in this victimhood role, this victim role. That was a big mask for me. So I would often, how would I want to change? How would that show up? What did that look like? Well, again, complaining was a big one. And not only complaining, but also kind of triangulating, right? So if it was a particular person that I was having a problem with, then I would talk to someone else about that person. Right. And try to see if I could change things that way, or that's just how I dealt with it, was triangulating. Instead of what? Realizing my part in it. So what can I do? Because I can't control what people I can't control people, places, and things. The only thing I can control is me.
Right.
And so I eventually learned that, and that's what got me onto the path of doing the inner work and recovery, and knowing that the only thing I have control over is me. And then when I know that, then I have a sense of empowerment, and I'm no longer feeling like a victim, because I know I can have control over myself. Now I feel empowered rather than feeling helpless.
Right. Because the reality is none of us are a victim.
None of us are.
We can grab onto that and think we are, but we're co-creating everything. Everything is co-creation. We always have a play. We always have a part, but ultimately we get to choose everything.
Yeah.
I mean, something horrible, don't get us wrong here. Something horrible can happen to you.
Yes.
You can be the victim of a external crime, a rape, whatever, and that this is a tough one for people to grab. This one's really painful.
It is.
So it doesn't mean that what happened to you doesn't happen. So when we say things don't happen on the outside, yes, life experiences happen on the outside. Horrible things happen on the outside. We're talking more about the smaller stuff, but even the big stuff.
Yeah.
The house can be gone in a tornado. Speaking of which, it's raining right now. So if there's raindrops in the background, I apologize. If there's some feed, I'll shut the window when we're done.
It'd be nice though.
It smells lovely because I just wanted to open the window and the sound. But those external things can happen. But then we have the choice, like you said, to go deep into victim mode and feel sorry for ourselves. And how could this happen to me? Why does everything happen to me? This always happens, black and white. Everything is always, this is poor me. Or go, this crappy thing happened. Now what? How can I rise up? Like you said, how can I be empowered? And that doesn't mean we don't have grief and sadness and go through and process any horrible event that happens. But we have a choice. How do we move forward from now? And we can vacillate into victimhood, poor me.
Right.
So we're not saying don't have those feelings, because if that's part of your process and your healing, go there. Go there. I mean, because there's days I have it's more hours now. I don't take days a day like I used to, but I still do, where I'm like, I just need to have a little pity party for myself. Pity party for one. I'm just overwhelmed and I am going to go sit in the corner and have a pity party. And if it's really bad, I warn, family members, like, I recommend just leaving me alone for a few hours. I just need to process some stuff. And so I can work through the victim piece that's showing up and whatever old patterns, like you talked about. The victim is just a umbrella for more underneath. And then I can work through it, and then I'm okay, because I took that choice. I'm going to choose to fall into my victimhood, but I'm going to do the work while I'm there. And I'm going to go within, and I'm going to understand what old pattern's showing up. Why is it showing up? What can I do to take care of my inner, sorry, little victim, inner child in the moment? And then I can let it flow through, because it's about flowing and controlling me, like you said.
It takes a tremendous amount of work to do the inner work. We're not in any way minimizing people's experience, people's pain, people's trauma at all. No. It's not being insensitive at all. We're just saying that there's always a choice. There's always a fork in the road. Which way do you want to go?
Right.
And I often say, I don't know where I heard the quote, but it was like 20% what happens in life, and it's 80% how you respond. Yeah. It's really about the response. Right. And I didn't know that for so much of my life. I mean, we're not taught that in culture. We're not taught that. And you hear story after story, like for people, maybe celebrities or whatever, where they started out with nothing, with nothing growing up in the projects or whatever. And because they have found something within themselves, some kind of inner strength that they could tap into, you can see how they have turned their lives around. I think about actually the movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. That was based on a true story where I can't remember the gentleman's name, but who Will Smith, the part he played, he literally was homeless and living on the streets while he was studying to become, I think it was a stockbroker, and how he had his child and just really was able to, he had to have some inner strength, he could have, and he did at times in the movie portrayed that he went into victimhood, but overall he ended up really turning his life around to where he came from a place of empowerment.
Yeah. And it takes that rise within, and then also understanding their social construct. We can have another conversation about that, the way we societally want to keep the oppression there,
yes.
So that's even harder to break through because society is not on your side.
I know.
They don't, our social construct, our way our system is set up is that we want to keep the split, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I do want to at least mention that. But I also want to point out what you were talking about too, that it's not easy and you don't have to do it alone. I didn't do this work alone. I don't think you can. There are very few people who can truly do this work alone. So it's not minimizing what that 20% that's happening to you, the tornado, the being assaulted on the street, whatever that is. It's not minimizing that. And it is by all means get help to work through those traumatic experience. Yeah, exactly.
For many people, Corona for sure.
So trauma is trauma and we can't ignore trauma at all. And we need people to ask for help and get support, whether or not, there's big T, little t, and you can talk more to that. Maybe in another episode would be great, but this is not meant to be done alone. That's how Kim and I met is by doing this work together, because you heal in relationships. So you do a lot of the inner work alone, but you also do it with others. And
Completely.
sometimes we can't see the way out, and other people can see it within us. So just like I can see a victim mask in another, I also can see the empowerment and the strength and the beauty and the light within another when they can't see it themselves.
Exactly.
So we have to be okay with working with other people and showing our dark bits and showing our light bits and knowing that it's all okay. What you're feeling is okay. You're never not. So when I would fall into that victim mode, that was okay. That's what I was doing to make it through the day. It wasn't wrong.
Right.
So if you're in that right now, that's okay. We support you. We
Yes.
honor you.
None of these masks are wrong. None of the masks that we're talking about are wrong. They are just there to help us get through, because it's the ego, right? And we'll be talking about the ego as well, in another episode. So I agree. It definitely, takes a village to help one another to see the light. And I'll just add two things. You had said society is really never supporting us, and I would agree, but the universe always is. Yes. So that's also amazing to know that the universe is supporting us all the time. And in addition, because we have done the inner work, doing the inner work has led you and I to both be on the path that we're on. Mm-hmm. So Tia does coaching. She's a coach and she does parent coaching. So she's amazing. To check her out. And I do hypnotherapy. So that is how, oftentimes when people get on the path to healing, they end up wanting to pay that forward and they go into some type of profession or work where they can help other people from the experiences that they have had in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
Victim.
Yeah, so this was a great conversation today. I loved this one.
Me too. All right.
Thank you for listening, everyone. And if you have questions, or feel free to give us a review when you listen.
Share with your friends.
Share with your friends. We would greatly appreciate the support and look forward to being with you in the next episode.
Bye.